Welcome back to the 11th edition of Tech Sparks, guys. Hope you're having fun. I hope you're learning a lot and hope you're networking. Okay, today's subject and this digital roundtable, more like a square actually. Today it's about the technique of building connections in an increasingly digital world. If you want to transform yourself digitally, then these are the people you must be talking to. Okay, I've got with me John S. Kim, the co-founder and CEO of Sendbird, a company and startup that's building the most scalable and powerful chat API in the world. Their chat APIs are being used by brands like DHL, Paytm, Yolu, and LG, to name a few. I've got Vineet Deopujari, who's the VP of Paytm. Hi, Vineet. The super app, and it's India's most valuable startup, of course. It's also India's largest mobile commerce platform. I've got Deepesh Banerji, SVP Technology of Deputy. You know, I shot the sheriff, but not the deputy. That song comes to mind. Deputy is helping hundreds of thousands of people across all industries in 70 countries, and it saves them time and money by managing their workforce so they can focus on what they do best. Finally, I've got Hardik Gandhi, who's the co-founder and CEO of Zvolv. It's a no-code process automation platform. It leverages intelligent automation to tackle last-mile digital transformation challenges. The startup helps process experts innovate, automate, and evolve applications faster than any other suite. Okay, guys, how are you?
Doing well.
Really well.
Great, Vishal.
Good to have you guys. And would you guys agree that SaaS is a huge market? Apparently it's a 150 billion market according to Gartner. And this COVID has only accelerated, digital transformation, collaboration. I think on that note, right, I would like each of you to give a quick introduction about yourselves and your companies, and then why you guys are at the center of this digital transformation piece and collaboration. John, you could start off, then Deepesh, then Hardik, then we'll move on to Paytm. Go on, John.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So I'm John, co-founder and CEO of Sendbird. We're the world's #1 chat API. We currently power over 100 million users that chat through our platform every month. And we are headquartered here in San Mateo in California. And we have about 7 offices across the world. I employ about 270 people for the company. And we power apps like Reddit, the world's largest online community, Yelp, fantasy sports, a lot of food delivery apps around the world, ride-hailing, some notable accounts. Our customers are like Paytm, MPL Gaming, Dream11, Ola in India, but pretty much the rest of the globe. And we have raised over $120 million to date. So that's kind of what we do. And we power user-to-user messaging in mobile applications as well as websites.
That's fantastic. Deepesh.
Hey everyone, I'm Deepesh. I'm SVP of Technology at Deputy, responsible for all product development. Deputy is a workforce management software platform. Our customers are retail, hospitality, healthcare. Typically, people that are spending their day standing all day at work, those are our customers and our end users. So very much kind of the non-tech, non-white collar workforce is our customer base. So we've got customers all the way from a small cafe on your local corner to large national chains in Australia, US, and UK are our primary geographies. So that's Deputy.
Okay, Hardik, go for it. What's Zvolv?
Hi, Vishal. Thanks for having me here. So Zvolv is a no-code process automation platform. So we work with mid and large size enterprises, adding structure to their internal processes, tackling automation challenges that are not possible with today's off-the-shelf BPM or RPA tools, where you need a lot more customization and where speed is of the essence. And with what's happening around us today, the speed of change is really of the essence for most of our customers.
Agree with you. Vineet, over to Paytm. You're the darling of India, so so tell us about what's going on at Paytm at this point of time.
Thanks for having me, Vishal. I'm Vineet. I'm responsible for leading a team at Paytm, which is right at the center of the financial services industry. And as you know, Paytm historically has been known for being an absolute, I would say, problem solver for the Indian consumers. But I think as time has progressed, Paytm has become a very strong business-to-business partner as well. And if you look at our footprint on the
on the consumer side, we have more than 450 million, saved cards, wallets, etc. And on the business side, we have more than 17 million merchants that are working with us. So we are very excited to be here. And as you pointed out earlier, we are right in the middle of this transformation where we are seeing many of these brick and mortar and offline businesses, and even some of those who didn't even think of starting online, coming online and working with us. And Paytm is enabling them to, fulfill their dreams by collecting payments.
Yeah, that's wonderful, right? On that note, I mean, John, you work with some big clients. You spoke about Paytm themselves. You spoke about DHL. How receptive were these folks, to using SaaS products a few years ago, say circa 2015, right? I think the world was very different back then. We only had Zoho, Freshworks, and the like CRM tools becoming popular. And a lot has changed since. Everybody wants to know, how do you collaborate? How do you make your teams better, like Hardik told us, right? Or even Deepesh told us. What's happened? What's the global SaaS landscape, looking like now?
Yeah, I think the kind of SaaS movement started probably, close to a decade or even or so ago, like Salesforce and whatnot. But I think there are a couple of tectonic shifts that happened over the years. One is the cloud, going from the on-prem, own IDC to going to a cloud. And then there's a layer of API economy that sits on top of it. How do you, as software engineers, leverage things like APIs and SDK to better build higher quality products faster to the market? But the overall kind of sentiment has shifted quite a bit. And you mentioned 2015. When we kind of soft launched in 2015 and 2016 during Y Combinator, initially, probably except for a couple of tech leading countries, whether it be Silicon Valley or whatnot, most companies around the world still prefer to build and own everything. And this was before the globalization of the software, before WhatsApp's explosion across the world. It was still every engineer wanted to build everything in-house. But what happened after that was the true globalization of the competition of software, and the end users' expectations just skyrocketed. So all the users now had access to all of this, high quality apps that were built from anywhere around the world. Now, since the end user's expectation is so high, there's no engineer in the world who can build every single feature to its best. So ultimately, what ended up happening was whatever that's truly a different and unique value proposition to your business, you own that. But everything else, you want to partner with the best of breed to really build up the quality and go to market as fast as possible. Because if you're not, your competition will be ahead of you. So I think that acceleration has certainly created this Cambrian explosion of SaaS.
Yeah, and Deepesh, this explosion of SaaS has also boiled down to the employees wanting SaaS to actually collaborate better, right? And I think I remember 2010, everybody would talk about employee efficiency, where you'd use data, where you would figure out employee journey in a company, and they could, then show them the path towards their career. But now it's becoming more dynamic, right? With the pandemic. You want to talk about collaboration there?
Yeah, maybe one way to think about it is most businesses are starting to think of when their employees are happy, their customers are happy. If you've got happy employees that are running your business, your customers will typically be happier because they're the frontline workers. And employees are happy when they can self-manage. And finally, with software and cloud and mobile apps, like they actually have the power to self-manage. And if they're taking a university course and they want to schedule off certain times, now their manager isn't going to book them during times that they had a university course, or if their mother's visiting from abroad and they want to book off the weekend, they don't have to, poke the manager in the back and hope for them to give them the weekend off. They can just self-service and do it themselves. So I think all of this, the fact it's in the cloud, the fact that mobile apps allows employees to have all this power that generally would have all these old workflows associated with them. And that's making employees happier, more productive. And when that happens, usually businesses thrive and customers are happy as well.
Did the pandemic change it for you guys? Did a lot of people start using the product a lot more?
It probably fast-tracked a lot of businesses that, our customers are retail and, bars, restaurants, hotels. For a lot of them, the pandemic hurt them a lot. And in some ways, there's an opportunity for them to take stock of, hey, I've got some time off. Where's my tech stack today? How do I modernize some of it? How do I do better practices? Most companies didn't go out of business. They more paused. And so it was a good opportunity for anybody pausing to say, anyone with a growth mindset was looking at, how do I optimize all the different parts of my business? How do I have some workflows? How do I connect them together? And actually, that's a persona that in the last 6 months has really grown for us. People that now have time to look for solutions. So that's part of the change.
I'm a little more curious to know I know the restaurant industry, I mean, they say that 50% of the restaurants and cafes are not coming back. And I'm sure a product like yours must be a godsend for these people, right? Could you give us some insight into how they used your product at that time?
Yeah. So what's interesting is, because of the flexibility in the product, people started using our product for different jobs. Because when people went into survival mode, they would have what was usually their chef help clean, or what was usually their chef help to do deliveries. And most businesses were in survival mode of just making sure they didn't have to lay off their staff. And what that happened was what they did do was lay off vendors or contractors or other parties that they would usually use to do some of those other tasks. And so with Deputy, they were able to, or any workforce management software, they were able to reallocate, reschedule, even retrain their staff, and then deploy them to different tasks. So that's one big thing we saw. We definitely saw from March to April, our key metric we look at is rostered, percentage of employees rostered. That went from, if the index was 100, it went down to about 40% for about 2 months. But actually in Australia, UK, and US, that's pretty much up to like 99% of what it was before. And the way people kept their staff during that time was trying to deploy them to other work items, either delivery and cleaning and things like that.
You should bring out your experience in India at some point of time in this conversation. I'd come back to that question again. Hardik, moving on to you. I mean, you worked with some of the big companies like Swiggy. You've got Future Group, you've got Lenskart, and all those big companies that you worked with, right? I mean, that your product works with. What does process transformation mean to you for these Indian companies? And one of them being a unicorn as well. How did they work with you during the pandemic?
Yeah, so three main areas that we have seen renewed interest in since the pandemic hit. Right, one is getting better visibility, both inside and outside your organization. Right, so better visibility as to where your internal processes are, where they are stuck, where are the opportunities to optimize, and then both externally, where are your vendors, where are your suppliers. There's a lot of dependencies on these external factors that can impact, how your business operates. So getting that visibility has become a key focus now. Second is, managing all the communications in a more automated way, right? Because, as more people are working out of distributed spaces, you cannot depend anymore on face-to-face conversations and group meetings. Automated communications and whatever automation can drive in terms of handover of activities, in terms of synchronization of tasks, etc. And then the third is do more with less, right? And everyone wants to do that. Optimize your resources, optimize the inventory that is lying around, optimize what tools you use and how many license fees and how many developers you have, and cut that down. And then if there's an external partner that can do all of that and drive value, I think that's a big shift that we are seeing.
Interesting. Vineet, 17 million SMBs that you're helping. It's not a joke, man. I mean, that's a lot of people in India, and most of these people are not used to technology too. And Paytm probably would be their first resource in tech, right? What was your experience? I mean, you're in the ecosystem only 3 months now, but you would have seen it firsthand. Go on.
Absolutely. So, what is interesting here is, Vishal, that for us to really reach out and enable all of these businesses, similar to your earlier question on build versus buy, we can't do everything on our own. So we need to collaborate. We need to have partnerships. And in many cases, we actually work with SaaS players who have this amazing stack of offerings. And they just, in addition to their stack, they just implement our products as well, so that the businesses have a complete, turnkey solution. So they come to the SaaS players and they have the full offering, and they just switch it on, and everything is good to go. What is also interesting is, Vishal, I think the way I see this is, since the beginning of mankind, there has been commerce and there has been trade. And as long as there is mankind, there will be commerce and trade. And as long as there is commerce and trade, there will be payment, right? So if you look at our history, we started with barter. Then I think we moved on to exchanging, stones and valuables, right? And then we moved on to coins, and then we went to currency. And now if you look at the forms of payments, we have digital payments, we have wallets, we have cryptocurrency. I think the forms of payment will keep evolving. And we at Paytm are also obviously pioneering to some extent in that, and we'll definitely keep ourselves centered in that. You spoke about the different industries and how they have reacted, right, during the pandemic. I think what is interesting about our scope of work is that we actually support across industries, right? So we are kind of industry agnostic. And since it's an all-in-one payments platform, we are enabling digital businesses, we are enabling offline businesses. We are also supporting freelancers, right? So you can be at home, you could be a baker, you could be a guitar teacher, and you could be collecting payments from home by doing a virtual class. We've also kind of tailored our offering to white label use cases as well as deep integration on the standard use cases. So it's pretty exciting.
It is really exciting. And, John, you mentioned something earlier, marketplaces, food delivery, digital healthcare. It's changed forever. And I'm a fan of open APIs and chat APIs more so, because I think most of them would have, struggled during the pandemic. They want answers. And I think Sendbird must have been a godsend also in these cases, right? You want to give us examples of, how this kind of a SaaS offering is important during the pandemic?
Yeah. We kind of start to see a lot of demand coming out our door probably right around February and March. And what was really noticeable was, especially in the healthcare space, now because everyone wanted to meet their doctors, get consultation. But before, due to regulations around the world, a lot of these were literally impossible. But we saw this vast wave of government changing their regulation very rapidly to adjust to this environment. So before, this was literally illegal to do so, but now around the world, talking to doctors digitally has become the new norm. And what I really enjoy about this part of this experience is that people are realizing this is actually a better experience, because before, people have to go to see the doctor, wait for tens of minutes, if not an hour, fill up their paper forms, wait there until get their names called. They walk in, they have a 5 to 10 minutes conversation, they walk out, maybe they get a prescription, maybe they're like, okay, come back in a week. So a lot of their time was wasted on waiting and filling up forms. Now all of that process is gone and has completely gone digital. So even after the pandemic's over, we believe this new norm will be the default mode of communicating with doctors. And what was kind of interesting too was on the consumer side, thanks to dating apps, now people simply could not date. So people have quickly turned, or the industry has shifted to virtual and video dating. So audio calling, video calling became a very, very big thing. So our apps like Hinge, one of the most popular dating apps here in the United States, we saw this huge adoption of video dating. And still to this day, it's a very, very effective form of meeting someone digitally. So even things like that. So, and then getting back to kind of Paytm, the commerce, we saw a lot of marketplaces kind of accelerate because the sellers still need to make their business and buyers still want to buy stuff. But now they're negotiating things over chat and voice calling. So we've seen a lot of increase in that. And of course, the food delivery, the industry just skyrocketed because now people can't really go to restaurants. So we're starting to see a lot of this commerce happen and accelerate through messaging and through digital interactions, especially because of pandemic.
Okay, you've got some big names. You've got Gojek in Indonesia. How did they use your product in, say, an Indonesian market? And you also, I think Ola is your customer too. And how did they use your product? Very curious, because these are some big names, and I think the audience would appreciate how did these brands react in the pandemic, and how did Sendbird help them?
So what we've seen across the on-demand spaces, a lot of these big players, just like Uber, have started to diversify their portfolio of services. Ride-hailing across the world have seen a sharp decline in the overall usage, well, because no one was really trying to get into cars. But because some of these companies were already had kind of food delivery business in place, they were seeing a lot of the increase. So we also partner with Delivery Hero, one of the largest food delivery network in the world. So we've seen a lot of increase there. So we've seen some of these companies adapt really well to that. But some of the companies who are relying only on ride hailing in different geos, their business has been really impacted very severely in a negative way. But in the past couple of months, we're starting to see some of these traffic come back up. Not all the way to the pre-COVID days. Some of these businesses are certainly recovering. So that certainly is a good sign.
It's a great sign. And actually, in this conversation, what I just realized is we are building experiences that drive, personalized experiences, and which drive engagement, right? I mean, how have enterprises reacted? Do enterprises understand, driving personalized engagement? Because for them, it is always about one size fits all. And how has that changed for you? I mean, do you see, the coming to you and saying, okay, we'll make our structured processes more engaging? Has that changed? I mean, you talked about open APIs also. Are they okay with using open APIs? Because I've never heard of enterprises. They always talk about open APIs, but the story is different. But how are they building personalized experience?
So, most enterprises started digitizing processes and converting your day-to-day interactions into some digital footprint, right? Think of it as an analog to digital converter many years ago. Then came the era of digitalization. You pick whatever tools are there and you have a mishmash of tools and you're trying to use whatever is at your disposal to automate some process. And now I think we are truly seeing what we call digital transformation. It's a change in your culture, change in how you operate, and change in how you are leveraging technology now, not just for namesake, but because it's imperative for your success, right? And for that to happen, you need to get buy-in from the bottom up, right? Everyone in the chain, right from the people doing the tasks to the managers making the decisions to the CXOs driving strategy, needs to get something out of it, right? And the tools need to fit like a glove for all three roles that exist in the organization, right? So if it's only a tool that is designed for CXOs to drive strategy, no one at the ground level is going to be very enthused about using it, right? So our challenge that's often thrown at us is how do you adapt these tools so that you're driving maximum value at all three levels. And it's not just about automating, but it's about driving the value and the usage. And I think that's where digital transformation is now, right? Where it has to fit like a glove at all three levels.
Yeah, and I really hope enterprises understand this. And there are people who move fast. The common client between Zvolv and Deputy is Titan. And going on to Deepesh, right? I mean, Deepesh, when you look at these enterprises, right? How do you I see a plethora of brands also coming in India and globally. These D2C brands. Everybody's got sales and marketing teams, and now they're all distributed. And measuring productivity is becoming a problem. A lot of entrepreneurs come to me and say, hey, I really don't know if my sales team has clocked X. I mean, I understand the revenue figures, but I don't know what time they're logging in and logging out. And, in the old days, you had that biometric thing going. All that's changed now. So, you're helping them with staff management. From a sales perspective, if you look at retailers as your business clients, how have you helped them collaborate, and how have you helped these retailers understand productivity?
Yeah, it's interesting. As people have more data now with cloud and SaaS, they're looking to make a lot more data-driven decisions. So the most sophisticated retailers, probably the ones that have the most chains and the ones you most see around, take a complete data science view to every part of their business, from their product to how they staff. And most of them use KPIs on sales per employee. They have baselines of sales per employee. And, one of the things Deputy does is we work with, we integrate with other automation tools to pull in the point of sale data during the time the employee is working, the weather, the other factors, foot traffic in the area. And we kind of create a score help create a score for the performance of the employee based on, hey, was it a good day relative to others? What was this day like compared to last year? What was sales like then versus now? And the employee, how effective was the employee at selling? And employers use that to make decisions. The most sophisticated employers correlate sales to employees and 100% make scheduling and performance management decisions based on that. And you can go down to the level of knowing which part of the business the employee was working on and how much sales came in that part of business. So you can say in Australia, for example, we've got big hardware stores that have a paint section and a tools section. You can see when Deepesh is working in the paint section, were sales up or down relative to a normal day. and you get to that level of degree of information to make good decisions. And then you can use that in future to drive your staffing decisions for, say, Christmas period when sales are going to be up. Ensure your top staff is working in the right places at the right times, and you have just enough staff working. So those are some of the decisions that we can help and people are doing to drive retail sales.
This is, I mean, for me now, I mean, you brought up this point too. You can go plug in with any stack out there. In fact, I could see the four of you collaborate also and sell as a super app or some super stack kind of. I mean, that's amazing, right? That's so interesting. So going on to that point, if that happens, do you think the customer will appreciate this kind of an offering?
Yeah, I think our end customers, our businesses, 100%. They have the expectation that if there is different, I think the default expectation for most people is that software interplays with each other. It's the only limiting factor is how open you build yourself and what automation workflows sit in between. But you would be surprised by how many retail companies or food companies use Zapier or use other workflow tools. You'd be really surprised by how the base level of expectation is increasing every year of how systems talk to each other. And if you don't integrate with others, it's almost you're not meeting the customer's base expectation.
Vineet, your thoughts on this? When you come on board Paytm, is collaborating with all startups like these a primary thing for you, where you get them all on a stack together, then you go to enterprises together and say, hey, we could solve this for you, from payments to open chat APIs to process automation to employee management. How is that possible today? And
Absolutely.
Would enterprises appreciate it?
Absolutely, Vishal. I think one of the things we are noticing is that I'll categorize it in two segments. There's a segment of customers who have not accepted digital payments, and hence there is a little bit of inertia and there's a little bit of hesitancy. And what we do in those cases is we obviously bring forward some of the power of our offerings. For example, we have enabled recurring payment collections. We have the payout tool. We have these powerful dashboards that give you same-day settlement, and hence the ease to transition becomes easy. And on the other end of the spectrum, where we have enterprises who are our consumers and have been using our products, we've actually enabled new use cases for them, where they're able to really use the power of our platform and see that transition happen sooner. I'll just give you a couple of examples. We have this new flow that has launched. It's called as Insta Onboarding, where a merchant can just go to our website, they can register online, and they can go live in a matter of minutes. Earlier, this used to be an assisted journey, right? It used to take some time, and it used to take some manual intervention, and that we just done that. We briefly spoke about retailing. We spoke about that segment. I'll just talk about there. We have certain integrations going with merchants like Shopify, for example. So when you go there and you sign up, you have the opportunity of leveraging payments through Paytm. And you can use a white label case. You could use an integration that we have, and it will help direct to consumer merchants. And as a solution provider, you basically offer the full solution. It's turnkey. So the moment you do that, you eliminate those points of friction, right? Then the merchant doesn't have to shop in the market for 4 or 5 options and then choose the quote, etc., etc. They actually get the full integrated solution at one shot.
Interesting. John, I have to bring this back to you, right? Starting up is not easy. Convincing clients is not easy. But the pandemic increases this interest, saying that, hey, we need your product, we'll use your product. What scares me is that while they use your product now, when the world opens up, they'll say, hey, now everything's back to normal. Let's not go back to whatever apps that I've used. That would be the scariest moment, because I feel that they will lose out a lot on customer retention at that point in time, because the customer would have moved online. I hope people get that. And how difficult is it going to be in that world for you?
So we try to measure the trends before and after COVID. What is kind of the short-term, what we call COVID spike, versus what is the kind of the fundamental shift in the people's behavior? Just to give you an example, right? Because the restaurants have pretty much closed down or are only accepting pickups, the food delivery has definitely skyrocketed. But let's say when the restaurants go back, open, the COVID is gone, people will certainly go back to restaurants. So the food delivery business will have to come down or normalize a little bit. But one thing that we also have to recognize is there are a big cluster of customers who have for the first time in their lives are using food delivery, and that they're now realizing that food delivery is actually a very, very practical choice that they could be using on a regular basis. So there is certainly that layer of customer who will make this as a more of a permanent or change in their habits. Again, like healthcare, we were pretty certain that a lot of this is here to stay. But dating, yes, some will stay virtual because it's very convenient. But some people will still want to meet because at the end of the day, if you want to marry someone, you probably want to meet and not get married just over Zoom call or video dating. So I think we try to analyze by vertical what is the foundational, fundamental transformational change, what is kind of the COVID spike. Yeah. But the overall thesis is that digital communication is so efficient, and that as a world, as a population continue to get more digitized, the digital connection is kind of the mega trend that will further accelerate. And just like looking at even WhatsApp too, like I know WhatsApp is a very, very big medium in India, whether it be personal or business communication. We talk to our customer base over WhatsApp all the time. Like 10 years ago, this was not the normal thing. But nowadays, like everyone has first shared the WhatsApp contact to build a relationship. So,
John, what's interesting? In India, farmers in India may not know Google, but they know WhatsApp.
Exactly. And well, messaging it's not like a messaging is a technology. The need, the human desire to communicate with someone remotely in real time, that has always existed. But now more people are just getting used to this kind of way of communication. So we see that as a more of a or this pandemic is a more of an acceleration towards that future.
Vineet, going down to you, based on what John said, there will be digital nomads from an employee perspective, and the fact that there's also the physical world out there which you serve, which is the millions of retailers and SMBs, right? The convergence of these two will draw out a lot of opportunities, right? And I don't know how it's going to play out because people will still have to go to their small stores and buy things, but that's more on the consumption side. But on the creativity, productivity side, I still think John is right. We'll be digital nomads. It's going to be a very interesting time. How are you going to handle it from the Paytm's perspective when you talk to all your clients?
So, Vishal, one thing we've realized is that during this time frame, all of the businesses have started to become a little bit more paranoid about their customer experiences. They're actually thinking really hard about how they're serving their end clients. And as a result, I think everyone is going to focus on removing those points of friction. Everybody's focusing on how can we make it seamless. And I think that is going to help a company like Paytm, for example, or a company like Sendbird, for example, because we have those kind of offerings which make it easy and which make it convenient, right? So I think that kind of becomes an advantage in the context of these times. And once the user is hooked on to this kind of and hooked on to the ease, once they're hooked on to the seamlessness, it will just stay forever. So I think that's how we are looking at this from an opportunity standpoint.
Okay, and Hardik, for you, Zvolv, for you, this is an enormous opportunity, right? All these old enterprises, you want to transform them. This is the best time for you in India at this point of time.
Yeah, and the problems that companies are looking to solve now are way tougher than they were looking to solve 2 years ago, right? I mean, push comes to shove, you have to make some tough choices now, right? Do more with less, make sure you leverage all the past data that you have collected over the years and use that in your machine learning models to drive your, merchandising, to drive your resource optimization. There's a lot of innovative thought process going on now that, companies were reluctant to embark on because these are tough projects. You're embarking on things that may require a cultural shift in your organization to get real value out of it. And it's a black swan event. So, why not take this opportunity to drive that cultural shift, right? And make these tough decisions that you have always wanted to make and drive that transformation. And we are seeing, it's not just digitize a process, but it's about how do I leverage all of the data that I have, from the past 10 years of my operations, right? And use that to drive better planning, better decision making, better resource optimization. And
usually, how long does it take for a legacy enterprise to transform itself with a product like Zvolv?
So, most of our use cases have been deployed in a matter of 2 to 4 weeks in the last 6 months, right? Mm-hmm. And these are complex use cases. And part of the speed comes from the change in mindset as well, right? Because at the start I said, the speed of change is very important now, right? So companies are not comfortable waiting 6 months anymore to launch a tool, right? They think about a tool, they need this process optimized, it has to happen next week, right? And with that kind of urgency, the build versus buy decision just goes out of the window, right? Because when you're trying to build something on your own, it's going to take months and years, right? Even if it's on top of an enterprise suite that you license, and you have system integrators and developers. I think those days are gone, right? You want to partner with platforms that can help you, launch solutions in a week, try it out in your field, see what value you're getting, refine it, tweak it, and go live in a month, right? And that's the kind of change that we are seeing, and that's what we are enabling.
Nice. Deepesh, what does digital nomad mean to you? Like John said, is it this kind of a meeting that makes us a digital nomad, or is it the fact that we're going to be freelancing with multiple people? The gig economy has changed. A lot of people, a lot of things, a lot of possibilities here. In that case, how's your product going to work if it's a digital nomad kind of work?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think there's new business models that we're seeing happening. Entrepreneurs ultimately sell to businesses, and entrepreneurs are resilient and creative. We've seen businesses like more doctors are now going to the patient instead of having a central place. These digital, what do you call it? Video conferencing doctor appointments are happening.
Yeah, telemedicine.
And you still need to schedule. Yeah, telemedicine. You still need to schedule people to make it happen. It just happens in a distributed manner. Shift to e-commerce still means that someone has to pick and pack those items in a warehouse. So the nature of work is 100% changing. But I think as much as this digital native thing happens, I think one other shift we've seen is the pattern of work, the in-person work is shifting from highly concentrated central business district to the suburbs are getting busier. So if I walked out today, I went to the cafe around the corner in my suburb, it's really, really busy, much more so busier than what it used to be 6 months ago. And so the hospitality retail industries, I think, are getting more distributed, and each suburb is its own little ecosystem. As more people stay at home, there's more things to do in your neighborhood. So I think we've seen definitely the dense populated areas are hurt, but a lot of that has just distributed to the outer ring.
That's a new business model. Basically, they have small stores, probably 300 square feet, coffee shops, maybe no dining. That's very interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Would you call that a digital nomad kind of moment for a lot of employees? They'd be working closer to home. You'll be employed, probably hypothetically employed by a Starbucks, but closer to where you stay, perhaps.
Totally. Yep.
That's interesting, man. And my interesting question here is when I talk here, right? I hope the CIOs, CTOs are watching this, because the world has changed forever. And John, would that be the target segment for you when you go convince people about this collaboration, right? And digital transformation? Who's your target audience? Who do you sell to? This is a question for all of you. So you could all spend about 15, 20 seconds on this, because I see that as a barrier, that yes, there is a need to change, but using open APIs, right? It's almost like, it's like you got to be in college today, you got to be 21 today, you got to understand that kind of world. Whereas if you're born up in the legacy world and you've sold only those or bought those kind of pieces, very difficult to change, right? I hope business decisions make sense. And who makes these decisions? CEOs, CTOs, or CIOs? Who's the decision maker today?
So our kind of typical ideal customers are in the product management organization and the engineering organization at the same time. So it's usually VP of product, VP of engineering, or CTO, CPOs, level up or level down. The reason is because we are API and SDK, so obviously it has to get that seal of approval and blessing from the engineering team, but the product management cares about the user experience, the UI, UX, go-to-market, feature richness, all of that. So we kind of have to check the both boxes. And I think that's kind of a common theme for a lot of API companies. If your API is more targeted towards productivity or interconnectivity, then probably engineering and security more. But if you're touching more on the go-to-market user experience, all of that, and then you probably have to lean more towards the product management. In our case, it kind of sits right in the middle. Chat is a very surprisingly infrastructure-intensive software. Just think about WhatsApp. What is the servers going to look like for WhatsApp or Instagram when they're serving millions, if not billions of users? Just think about the scalability issues that you have to run into, the reliability and the latency. So all of that is very heavy infrastructure. The UI UX has to be crisp, has to work offline. It also has to be working in the spotty internet connectivity. So all the network layer as well as the UI UX has to be super crisp and modern. And one thing that has been surprising, kind of touching a little bit on the build versus buy, is that a lot of people only think about the building part. And as an engineer, I mean, I've always wanted to build, never wanted to buy. But one thing that also as an engineer will appreciate is when you kind of like use a couple of open sources projects that are kind of left abandoned. It's not really being maintained and it goes stale really quickly. Any part of your software that you don't maintain goes stale quickly. And the rest of the world is moving forward. So it's not the initial building that's hard. It's about scaling and making sure that your experience is up to date, most secure, most reliable, but also matches to your end users' expectations. Because they're on WhatsApp, they're on Instagram, they're using all of this every day. So if your app is somewhat stale on those aspects, the users will quickly try to figure out the alternative. So it's about them maintaining, sustaining, upgrading, improving, kind of in perpetuity. And that's the real difficulty for engineering managers to continue to motivate your team to fix something incrementally for forever while they are working at.
So would you say the world has taken baby steps, or have we rapidly accelerated onto that change?
I think this change is accelerating, and thanks to amazing companies like AWS and Google and whatnot. If you think about just 5-10 years ago, when people say cloud, people are like, cloud was a kind of niche thing. Like, why would you trust cloud? Like, everybody thought cloud was this insecure, totally like slow thing, expensive thing. Now it's like, okay, who doesn't use cloud, right? And I think the API economy, all of this is kind of the next level, one abstraction layer higher than the infrastructure layer. Now, when people kind of think of API, some people are like, oh, of course, you want to use the best of Lego blocks. Some people are like, oh, so I still want to have the full control over source code. At the end of the day, if that's not creating user value, if that's not creating business value, none of them matter. It's just playing with shiny toys. You want to work and build the best user experience and create the best business value. If you're slowing down while you're doodling on those things, your competition always has the opportunity to go to market faster with a better product.
I love that. I love what you said. You can build the best app in the world, but without open APIs, it's just a bell and whistle kind of product, right?
Yeah, things go stale. Yeah.
Great, Hardik. What is your prediction? What's the SaaS trend going to be like? Say next year, say next 6-7 months.
Fingers crossed. I hope this trend is here to stay. We are getting faster decisions out of CXOs. We are able to drive more complex transformation initiatives. We are not having to travel at all, which is a great thing. SaaS is not about being there in person. It's about being able to do things remotely. And this pandemic has really pushed that trend and changed that mindset that you don't need to sit across the table, to close a deal. You can do it, on video conference, right? And so that's been a great boon. And the speed of change, right? The urgency, people closing on requirements really fast, people aligning internally across teams really fast. These are all positives, and I hope this is here to stay. It's great for startups like us. We are able to drive more revenue, and it's great for large companies. They don't have to sit forever to see that transformational change.
Vineet, I hope you're hearing that, and I hope you're listening to that. And Paytm obviously supports a lot of startups. What are your predictions of the next 6-7 months? I know fintech is here to stay. I know India payments is going off the roof. Digital payments are here to stay. But I would like you to touch upon how businesses are going to change with Paytm beyond just fintech, right? Because you're also offering a lot of customer experiences. So
Absolutely.
Your thoughts, please.
So I think Vishal, like Hardik just pointed out, I think we are past that tipping point now where SaaS is no more a luxury. It's no more a question of whether I should do it or not. I think it's here to stay for sure. People have seen the benefits of SaaS. People have leveraged it and they've seen how quickly it can help you run your business, and it can enable productivity and can do several magical things which could not have happened earlier. So I'm pretty confident that this trend is going to not only stay, but in fact, it might even accelerate further as the time progresses and people start to see the benefits of it. So I'm really excited by what it has to offer. I think it's a really phenomenal moment for this industry.
So it'll be digital sales. It'll be digital sales. Everything digital going forward for you, winning customers also.
Largely, that's how you can scale the business, because it removes those inefficiencies, like Hardik pointed. Like, you don't have to travel, you don't have to be across the table.
Yeah.
I think it really enables that. And with chat functionality and tools like that, you can really eliminate some of the pain points. You can eliminate some of the doubts that people have. And right when the moment of truth arises, you don't have to wait for an in-person interaction. You don't have to wait for a phone call to happen. You can just go into the chat box, get your queries answered at the moment of truth.
And I know Paytm is very big with the mom and pop stores in India. I mean, you got more than 10 million of them, I'm sure. How do you communicate with them at this point of time and for them to use more tools?
So we have obviously integrations with CRM. We have those phone lines which are always open. Some of them have been assigned, key account managers. So we have differentiated level of offerings across the different segments. And there are multiple touch points, so they just don't get stuck at one point in time. Most of it is digitized. Most of it is online powered through tech. There is a little bit of that which we support through manual intervention, typically for sensitive cases, typically for difficult issues.
John, you're going to have the final word here. What do we expect? 6 months? What's going to happen? How's the world going to change? And then I'll sum up the conversation. And thank you, gentlemen. Go on.
Yeah. Well, sadly, I don't think within 6 months the world will be able to recover fully. Not going with that we do, but there is still a lot of challenges ahead of us. I think one lesson that we learned a lot from our own customer is that the faster you adapt to this new environment, the stronger you get. We've seen sports league company that deals with sports leagues. Thankfully, like NBA has done a phenomenal job of creating a bubble, but most companies, most industries don't have the luxury of creating the bubble of their own. So some companies have quickly transitioned their entire business model towards like online users, online communities, and reaching their customers that they were not able to reach before, and really creating engagement, retention, and monetization mechanisms through digital experience. Those customers are thriving. We've seen their traffic immediately take a short downturn, but immediately they started to skyrocket. Whereas some companies are still wishing for that world to come back to normal pre-COVID. Their traffic has gone down significantly, and they're having a real struggle trying to recover. So the lesson is that to use Hardik's company's name, like Zvolv, it's like you have to evolve to this new world. And to do that, you have to really embrace this building the connections in a digital world, which is actually our mission statement.
So thank you, gentlemen. I'll see you in a bit. Bye-bye.